What if your favorite artist was unable to make the concert that you had bought tickets to months in advance? Wouldn't it be great if there was a way to save the show via some new crazy technology that used the internet? Well, that actually happened to this guy, and there's a good chance that more professionals are going to use this technology going forward. The man in the picture is Nils Landgren, and the footage here is from a concert that took place in Helsinki, Finland, while Nils was nearly 3 hours away and a quick jaunt over the Baltic Sea in Stockholm, Sweden. Now, I don't know all the details of this story, so I'm just gonna make one up, but it probably went something like this.
Hey Nils, we have a gig in Helsinki. Can you make it?
Aveman, I would love to, but the traffic going that way is horrendous.
Well, shucks, that's a bummer. Too bad the technology doesn't exist so that you could shred the horns from Sweden. We could project you onto a big screen on stage. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I can't believe that is not a thing.
So the story goes, for one reason or another, Nils was unable to make the show in Finland, and this is where 𝗦𝗚Live stepped in and offered to let him broadcast his performance live from their studio in Stockholm. Now, if this was a metal band or something where the drummer had a click in his ear the whole time, I'd be less impressed by this, but this is jazz. So much of the music is based off the interaction the band has with each other, and even passing the ball, so to speak, to let the other musicians take the lead. I think this is why it's so impressive to see this happening in real time. It's a good proof of concept for 𝗦𝗚Live that their technology and claim of near zero latency for musicians works. Sorry, if you're new to this, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Let me tell you a little bit about 𝗦𝗚Live. 𝗦𝗚Live is a company that makes products to connect people in real time without the annoying lag you experience over most video conferencing platforms. So 𝗦𝗚Live released an audio interface to try and combat the problem of latency by connecting you to the internet via LAN cable. It's called The Bridge. I did a video on this recently. It is very, very cool, but wouldn't it be crazy if they released an app that did the same thing as The Bridge? And wouldn't it be even crazier if that app was absolutely free? Well, they did. After posting the previous video, a lot of you wonderful commenters were asking, why do you need The Bridge? Can't you just do this with your computer? And the main issue with that is latency. Latency is the amount of time between when a sound is made and when it is heard. And when it comes to technology like this, or just trying to play music over the internet in general, latency is a big problem because there is a big time gap between the time when you're playing your chug chords on your guitar and the time your drummer, for example, on the other end is hearing those chug chords and able to play back to them. And then the time that it takes you to hear your drummer play back also. It could just be a big mess and can be caused by things like your computer's hardware or your terrible internet service provider that has a monopoly on your local internet and throttles the connection during peak hours and... where was I again? Oh right, while The Bridge can't do anything about your internet overlords, it can offer you a more stable connection due to other factors like your computer's hardware. And also, there is a limitation on how far you can get with near zero latency. The further your signal has to travel, the more latency will be introduced. 𝗦𝗚Live lists this limitation as 621 miles apart.
While Taylor was editing this video, 𝗦𝗚Live reached out to correct him. It's no longer 600 and whatever miles. It's now up to over 1,000 miles. Seriously, that's a lot of miles. That's like from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, bloody shite. Taylor could have reshot this, but then I wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to you. And I'm so lonely. All I want is to show people my stump collection, but no one is interested in stumps anymore. Time to take my meds, I suppose. Cheerio.
But it is a whole other thing that you have to buy, and you also have to be connected to the internet via LAN connection. I mean, it's 2023! Shouldn't you be able to jam live over Wi-Fi? Well, now you can with the 𝗦𝗚Live application. Now, currently the 𝗦𝗚Live application is in beta and only available to Apple users, but it is in development for Windows as well as a plugin version that we will get more into later in this video. So if you own a MacBook, for example, and you have a good internet connection and you own an audio interface that you enjoy more than this little yellow box, you can connect to the 𝗦𝗚Live service and jam with your other band members without having to be in the same room as them, which is nice because the bass player smells weird. And no one really wants to tell him about it because he's kind of sensitive and it might hurt his feelings? Well, now you don't have to. And to add to all of that, 𝗦𝗚Live is letting users of the beta software use it for free without any limitations for the rest of the 2023 summer. Once the beta ends, they still will have free access to the application, but there will be a time limitation. So if you want to extend that time limitation, you will have to pay for a subscription. But it will most likely be less than you're paying for your streaming services and several times less than you pay to practice in a dingy basement that smells like moldy feet. Now, I think the app has massive potential. It could even change the whole music industry in a way that might not seem obvious at first. Not only is the app free to sign up for, but there is a social media aspect to the app that might be beneficial for musicians in the same way Craigslist was in the early 2000s. Let me explain that. Back then, you used to be able to peruse your local musician's classified section and find any long-haired shredmaster that was looking for a band. I mean, I'm pretty sure that most bands probably found their members in the early 2000s by using Craigslist. Now, imagine a thriving social media platform where you can not only look for other musicians, but be able to audition them in real time over the internet. Imagine the implications that could have for artists looking to fill their roster, or even gigging musicians looking for a fill-in for an upcoming tour. And the best part is you don't have to limit your search to your local area, since you can audition them over the internet from wherever they are, as long as you're within 1,000 miles. Let me show you some of the different features in the app real quick, and then I will share my experience using it with you. Okay, I have the 𝗦𝗚live application opened up here. I'm playing my guitar through my Headrush Prime, and that is plugged into my audio interface. If you're curious about that and the sounds that I'm making, that's how I'm doing it. Now, this is the backstage tab. This is where you can connect with other people. This is sort of like the social media-ish aspect of this program. You can see here that my drummer is here, but he's not online. Sad day for me, I guess. But you can also connect with other musicians here. If you just wanted to find a random person to jam with, you could do that. Let's go into our video tab here. I have my video turned off. Let's turn it on. Hey, there I am. So pretty simple to set up here. Now, if you need to, you go into your settings and you can select all of your audio and video information here. My audio input and output is my Apollo Twin Duo right now. Now, video, we have different options here with the video. We can do video high quality. We can do maximum 2.5 megabits per second if your internet speeds can handle that. You are going to need to select a talkback source here. I just use the microphone that is built into my monitor. For that, it just seems to make it a little bit easier. That way you don't have to have one of your inputs taken on your audio device as your microphone as well. We can't select these things unless we have an active session, but the way that this works is you have a talkback button down here, and you can click and hold that to talk back and then let it go, and it will mute your microphone. Or you can press shift and click it, and then it will leave it on, and that way you can talk back and forth, like if you're setting up or something like that. It's kind of useful. And then down here we have connection speed, shows you your upload speed and your ping. Let's check our speeds here, see how it's going. Okay, so upload speed about 700 megabits per second. And then ping is about 4 milliseconds. So this is very, very quick. Again, I'm connected to fiber via LAN on this computer. So, you know, I kind of expect it to be that fast. It's just a good idea to check your internet speeds before you get all involved in trying to start a session. You have a chat here as well if you want to be able to chat with your bandmates or whoever's in your session. You can do that in the chat there as well. Let's go over to the mixer here. Here you have your mixer, and you can see there's my audio input 1, and maybe I have something going on in the second input. That would be here. You can mute this as well. A good reason to do that would be maybe you have like a click going into the second channel here and you don't want to hear it, but you want to be able to broadcast that to your drummer, for example. You could do that here, and then you can mute it. You can also pan it left and right if you wanted to. If you click on inputs right here, it will open up your different channel inputs. You can change these. You can turn them on and off. You can make them private, meaning only you can hear them. If you go live, everyone in your session can hear them. And everyone in your session will have their own controls and be able to adjust the levels that they're hearing you at on their end as well. So that's a really nice feature. Everyone has their own mix. You don't have to be subject to your drummer's terrible mix. Okay, let me show you an actual session that I had with my drummer.
I said, yeah, let's go.
Now, before I get into my experience using the 𝗦𝗚live service, I also wanted to talk about a new feature that is coming that would make this app way more usable for my specific situation. Not only are they planning on support for Windows coming in the following months, but they are also planning on a plugin that will allow you to integrate tracks from your DAW into the 𝗦𝗚live session. The reason this is such a big deal for me is my band uses a lot of backing tracks and a click track when we play, so having more than 2 inputs would be a huge deal. I also would like to be able to play directly into my interface and monitor with a plugin. I think that would be really great, so that way I don't need to have an extra thing to monitor my own guitar with for my jam session. I just need my laptop and an audio interface. Another thing that I think this application is really great for, especially since they removed the barrier to entry of having to buy the bridge, is just using it for video conferencing. I recently did an interview over the 𝗦𝗡 app, and it was much more in tune with two friends having a chat over a cup of coffee at a coffee shop than it was over a Zoom call or Google Hangouts or something like that. Now, as to my experience with the plugin, I think it works really well. Actually, when I was using it, I didn't notice any difference between using the application on its own and using the 𝗦𝗡 bridge, but there is a big caveat there, and that is that I'm using a Mac Studio connected to a fiber internet connection via LAN cable. This is sort of the optimal situation. My drummer on the other end was also using a newer MacBook Pro connected to fiber via Wi-Fi. We didn't experience any abnormal interruptions, although with the Wi-Fi, you do get more instances of small glitches than you would connected via LAN cable. If you've ever done any online gaming, then you're familiar with how this works. Oddly, the only major difference that I noticed between using the 𝗦𝗡 app with and without the bridge was the video seems to be more synced up now. So if you are a person that relies heavily on visual cues from your bandmates, that could just be a big plus for you. I also didn't have nearly as many bugs as in my first test, like the infinite invitation ring bug, so it seems like they've definitely worked out some of the kinks with the software. Now, this is not only a great product for bands, but really any music industry use that requires people to sit in a room together to experience audio. Like, maybe you are a teacher looking to do online lessons without the latency you would experience over something like Zoom. It's really useful for those type of situations. And finally, do I feel like the subscription is worth it? Well, in short, yeah, I do. I think that it is an awesome tool to give you another option for practicing music with other people. And while this won't quite replace being in the same room with your bandmates, I think it's probably as close as we can get for now. 𝗦𝗡 has done a really great job of making the user interface easy to navigate and use. And I mean, if I can figure it out, I'm sure you can as well, because I am terrible when it comes to technology. Now, I'm sort of waiting for the plugin support that I mentioned earlier to really take advantage of being able to practice at home. But once that happens, I will probably be using this regularly to supplement my band practice. But all in all, I think this is a really great service and one that I fully intend to use myself, especially for things like writing, where my bandmates and I don't necessarily have to be in the same room. All right, shout out to 𝗦𝗡 for sponsoring this video. Shout out to you for watching it. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button. If you really liked it, consider subscribing or becoming a patron, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.